So I said I'd do a part 2 of this video. It's about half hour, 40 minutes into the cycle. It's already on the rinse function. It's going to go to the spin and then the end. And you can see, you can't even see through the glass really at all. So that's the reason why I just want to do a part 2 and tell you guys that, you know, sorry, that, you know, this part 2 is really not, I'm not doing the magnet thing to get the, to trick the machine into thinking that the door is closed when it's really not. So, sorry about that. Plus the garment, add garment thing is not on because it's already through the wash cycle, so sorry about that, folks. I kind of realized that afterwards, once it started to fog up, but I figured I would at least do a little bit of talking about the washer. So we've had it for almost exactly a month now. We really like it. The only thing that we don't really care for is the fact that the wash cycles are a little bit longer than our last washer, which we were already not used to when we first got that, because those wash cycles were long as well, compared to our non-high efficiency top load washer. And the pump is actually running on this. Well, it just stopped, but it'll start again here soon. But other than that, I can smell the laundry, and it smells great. It smells really good, and I'm super excited to see what this is going to do, because I've never used those bounce beads before. I've always used the, what do you want to call it? The Downy Fresh. I don't like the shimmer, and I don't like the spring scented one for those Downy Unstoppables. But I have used this quite often, but I'm not a huge fan of it. This is also supposed to be fabric conditioner, not fabric softener, which we do also have fabric softener as well. So we use Downy April Fresh, we have Borax, we have Downy April Fresh. That bleach is bleach, but we typically use the Persil. I don't know as to how much I actually had stated about the Persil, but my mother always used Tide. She never bought bargain anything. It was always Tide, and we'd always buy the Tide with Febreze added to it because it smelled so good, but they stopped selling that very quickly. Then my parents went to the Tide Pods, and I didn't like those, which I think was what really pushed me to try the Persil. And then when I brought that home, I just bought a really tiny bottle of it, just like, I don't know, 15 loads, 20 loads, something like that. And my mom really, really, really liked it, so she switched to that. So you can see it is on the spin cycle right now. It's just starting to rev up. But because of the claims, I don't know if this has always been this way, but I know on the bedding and the waterproof setting, it only spins on medium spin speed because of all the you know, complaints and things that were made or claimed. So if you can hear it rocking, it's not that, it's this hose that touches the back of the washing machine, and it makes that tapping sound. So that's the reason why that's happening. But I have noticed that it does have a little bit more movement than the front load washer, but ultimately it's pretty quiet either way. But my father, back to the wash cycle sound, or the wash times, my father was not happy when we first got this and he started flipping through the different wash cycles and seeing that, you know, the washer is going to take, you know, a lot longer in terms of time than our old washer, which I think my father, when I first got it as well, I first told him, because I had to tell somebody so they were here to get it, or for the delivery. I told him what I bought, and he's just like, what brand? I was like, Samsung. And he's just like, top load or front load? And I was like, top load. And he's like, no, all the guys at work were talking about how those are terrible. I'm like, thanks. You know, I just bought you guys a nice Christmas present, and you can't even be appreciative of it. So I was kind of bummed out about that. Then when we get it home, he's flipping through the cycles, and he's just like, oh my gosh, none of these cycles are for less than an hour. And I'm like, you know what? Screw you. So this is about as fast as it's going to spin on medium spin speed, which is fine. It seems to do a really good job either way, but it's because bedding is such a large, chunky item, and that people don't always follow the whole edging thing and balancing out the load good enough. So what ends up happening is these washers, when they offset something like that, whereas front loaders typically always spin out the drum on an offset load, they try their best to even it out. They gradually spin slowly, and then they gradually move up to speed so everything clings to the side. But and I think that's one of the reasons why they wear out pretty fast, is because they're always washing unbalanced, or spinning out unbalanced loads. But the top load, everything sets at the bottom. So since there's no impeller to really keep things from one side or the other, or there's no pedestal like agitator post to keep things from one side or the other, what ends up happening is things can go wherever it wants inside there and offset it. So that's kind of a problem that I have found with this top load. But again, as long as you balance out the load, it'll be fine. The low spin speed is because those large chunky items get really saturated. They're big, they're not easy to separate. It's easier to put 4 different articles of clothing on either side, whereas one large thing likes to stay to one side. You can't really divide that across without laying it in like a ring, and the machine's not going to be able to do that by itself. Nothing can without arms. So sorry to go on a big tangent. Hopefully that made sense to you guys, but that's the reason why the bedding in the first place caused so many problems for these top load machines without that center agitator. But think of the previous, you couldn't really do bulky bedding in the old-fashioned washers because of the way that the pedestal in the middle was. You couldn't wash anything large, whereas in this you can. And I would just probably put it on deep wash and then put it on medium spin speed. So that should be fine, as long as you're washing on medium or less. If you're doing a sheet or something, as long as you have them balanced out good enough, it should be fine as well. But other than that, there's nothing else I can really show. Again, I'm not going to screw with the magnet stuff that you see some people do. I don't want to break it. And this is just residue up here that gets up here from like the powder that when you dump it in, it kind of floats up, and since there's condensation on the lid, it sticks to it. So this needs to be wiped off on the inside. But other than that, we really like this washer, and I don't think anybody but maybe like super people with a microscope can really notice the difference in terms of cleaning, but I think this does a really great job. But thank you for watching, and if you have any questions, please ask, and I will get back to you guys.